Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Money Chats. Every other week on a Tuesday at 8 p.m. to have a quick 30-minute chat about money and finance and just anything that you want us to talk about. Yes, my co-host is joining. Are you there?
Yeah,
Yay!
I am.
Excellent. Welcome. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect.
Let's see how we go. So we're talking about some finance words today.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Do you want to start or should I start?
Oh, yes, I can start. So, my first finance word today is the word investment. So I will say I is for investment. So I think it's really, really important. It's a word that's commonly battered about, but my definition is that an investment is something that you do today for a future return. That is how I would define investment. An investment could be in your habit, it could be in money, it could be in good practices, it could be in giving. You could invest in anything, but that you hope to get future return out of. Now, the two key things for me with investment is that there needs to be a goal of why you are doing this thing, whether it's a habit or whether it's putting money in the money market. Is you need to have a goal of why you're doing this, and you need to do it consistently. So whether you are trying to do, I don't know, get fit, you need to commit to exercising consistently because you want a future goal later on. Whether it's investing in the money market, you need to commit an amount that's consistent and that's achievable that you want to get a return for in the future. I think it is worth noting that this word is commonly batted about when it comes to other people. So you investing in somebody else and hoping that this other person would think that they owe you something in the future to give you back. So unless it's an object or something objective that you can reliably sort of measure the return, or at least that the variables aren't so up and down, I think it's really worth just noting that it's a bit dangerous to call investing in another human being your investment or your retirement pot, or something like that, because things could change in their lives in the future. So that's my first one.
It's beautifully put because I think people think of investment, and if you're in the personal finance kind of space, people talk about investments and they think stock market, those kind of investments, but there's so much more. And I think I'm really glad that you touched on the personal investment. I think that is the biggest investment that you need to make in yourself. Like you said, putting that investment, learning, educating, upskilling, getting qualifications, getting skills that will produce a future return. And I think that's the key. That does this thing give me a future return? That's what makes it an investment. So I like that. I'm gonna go with B for bank. Now,
Yay.
I think that I think it's even from childhood. Um, One thing that's missed out, we know bank, oh, it has money, it has our money, it looks after our money. But what I really want to point out today is that a bank is
Mm.
a business. A bank is where money is stored, yes, your money that you put in, but a bank is in the business of making money from
Mhm.
your money. And I think that's really important, and I don't think that's quite explained enough to people. And this is where we find ourselves in situations where, when we're getting a mortgage, we think the bank is doing us a favor or they are giving us something from the goodness of their heart. But actually, you are making them richer. You are part of their business model, and that makes them a lot of money over a very long period of time. So B for bank, yes, it stores our money. Yes, it does many other things, but today I just want to highlight that it is a business, and it is in the business of making money.
I love it. I love it. And I think these sort of basic definitions are so important. For some reason, I think people assume that banks are there to kind of work in their interest. You know, you
Yeah.
put money in a bank and the bank really loves you and they're going to really take that money, you know, grow it for you and just give you all that they've done, you know, after a while. No, a bank is a business. You are the customer. You make them money. Your money makes them money. You know, that is really, really important to know. Okay, my next one would be fixed cost. Because I sometimes put these words out there and people are like, what is a fixed cost? Especially when it comes to personal finance. So a fixed cost, as the name implies, is a cost that is fixed every single month. So for example, your house rent or your mortgage is an example of a fixed cost every month, especially if you're on a fixed interest rate on a mortgage payment or any other loan repayment. So something that you pay the same amount month in, month out over a long period of time. Another example of fixed costs, especially if you live in the UK, would be maybe your council tax, because that's also an amount for a 12-month period is fixed. On the other hand, you have another type of cost called variable costs. So your variable costs are costs that go up and down based on how you use them or what you use them for. Big example, when we do budgeting, food costs. So your food costs, for the most part, would be variable based on what you put in your cart in the supermarket. Another example of variable costs would be your gas and electricity that goes up and down depending on how much gas or how much electricity you use in a month, unless you're in a fixed rate, you know, that sort of thing. But usually a variable cost of fuel, petrol costs, is something that can go up or down in a month based on how, you know, much you drive. So even when it comes to expenses, and some people would often say, you know, I can't cut out any more expenses. You know, things are already tight as they are. I agree, especially in this economy, that a lot of us are just, there's nothing else to cut, right? But I think even when we look at those expenses, let's group them into fixed cost and variable costs. Our fixed costs, yes, we're in contractual agreements. We may not be able to change that, but list out all of your variable expenses and see if there is anything that you can do, either by switching off the lights when you're not in a room, or by walking, maybe sometimes instead of driving, if that works out cheaper for you, or by trying to make your meals stretch instead of buying, you know, ingredients for a fresh meal each time. So, and as we know, food bills, certainly for me in our household, our food bill is one of the biggest expenses on our line, and I have been doing my best month in, month out to see whether I can bring that down. So those are costs broken down into fixed cost and variable costs.
But you know, the food, right? We can try our best to streamline it, to do everything. It's not making sense. It's bad.
It's
Anyway, I
hard.
digress.
It's really hard, honestly.
I'm gonna look at joint venture. So
Gee.
J is for joint venture, and I think that one's really important for people who want to start out, particularly if they're looking to do an investment that costs a lot of money. Initially, a lot of capital is required. So, for instance, if you want to buy a house, or you want to buy some property, or there's a business that's on sale, or there's a whole lot of things. And I think that particularly in our community, people find it very hard to trust each other, yet there's so much power in
Mm,
having a joint venture.
mm,
What two people can bring to the pot can help you grow and be in an investment much quicker sometimes than just having individuals trying to do it alone.
mm,
For example, for families, if you have two siblings in a house who are trying to get on the property ladder, for argument's sake, instead of two people trying to get two different houses, you could look at them buying one house first, or the one individual, and then buying another. Don't get me wrong, I know it's very complicated, but also there are things in place. There are ways, legalities that you can put to make sure that whilst you are siblings, you're signing a contract that actually lists the things and the terms and the conditions of the joint venture. So I don't think I think it's something that we haven't really explored as a community, and I think it's so powerful
Mm.
to be able to come together, put in capital, and make a really good investment. So J is definitely for joint venture. I think that's something that I don't think was ever really said when I was growing up in that kind of way. I mean, there's lots of stuff. There's crowdfunding now. You can go into, doesn't have to be someone you know. You can go into a joint venture with someone who has a great idea that you're quite interested in, and you've got a bit of money, and you can get some returns later. So that's Jay for me.
Absolutely. You're so right. Yeah, so right. I wish that naturally we were more a people that kind of trusted each other more, especially with money. And hopefully these conversations help to demystify some of the fear and misconceptions around some of these things. You can go into joint ventures with the right structures and legal structures in place to make them relatively safe and to scale up a lot
Yeah.
quicker with people that you trust, or that you can put good legal structures around. Um, so my next word is a word that a lot of people come to me and ask me about, and it is AER, annual equivalent rate. Now, this is in the context of interest. So, AER is essentially the annual rate that you would get on your savings. So, this is when interest is paid to you, not when you pay interest out. So, this is the rate that you will get, assuming compounding. So, there are different ways that interest rates are paid to us. Usually, with banks, you can either get a rate paid every year, you might get it paid monthly, you might get it paid daily, you might get it paid quarterly. When you see the interest rate and then you see right next to it AER, or the annual equivalent rate, that is assuming that if this pot of money or savings gives you interest every month or every year or every quarter, at the end of the year, this is the rate that you would have got. You would usually also find that the AER is probably a slightly higher rate to say like the basic rate that it's advertised. So for example, if you put £100 into an account and it said it was giving you a 3% return, if you were to get that 3% in one, you know, lump sum, I guess you can call it that, that would be what, £3, right? That would be
Yeah.
£3 that you would get if you were to get it paid out straight. Now, if they put, say, an AER, say you got paid it monthly, by the time you get to the end of that, so remember you would get paid your 3% in January, that would have whatever amount it was on your account, then it will compound. So in February, you get your 3% on then the what you put in plus your first payment, then it will compound, and then you go all the way to December. So at the end of December, your AER in absolute values would be maybe £3 and 2p or £3 and 3p. So the annual equivalent rate just helps you work out how much you would get at the end of a period when compounding has already been accounted for. And usually this is because you're not getting paid your interest in one lump sum, you're getting paid it either on a monthly, quarterly, or something like that. So AER is your annual equivalent rate, usually used on interest that you are being paid. So you're earning it on usually savings, and that accounts for compounding over a period of time, usually 1 year. Over to you.
Wow. I wish I could explain it so well. Well done. So you'll see me that I've been looking down. I've just typed in the chat the words that we've spoken about today
Mm-hmm.
so far. So we talked about investment, we talked about bank, AER, joint venture. Have I missed any? I think
No, I think that was it.
that that was it. And probably going to be my last one for today is something that I love so much to talk about. Tax. Now, tax, tax. If you follow me on my page, you'll see it's one of the things I've said that I wish more and more we could educate our children before they get into the workforce and tell them about that thing called
Mm.
tax. It's so interesting on the conversation with that. Quite a few people said, you know, I actually thought tax was only for wealthy people growing up because that seemed to be the kind of context that they heard. But actually, tax is money that is taken by the government for various social services in your country. So, for instance, if you're in the UK, it's taken for health, a vast, parks. There's a vast number of things. So it's taken out for that purpose, and it's taken on a percentage scale, depending on how much you earn. The more you earn, the more you get taxed. And then it's a whole subject. But just simply to say, it is with every penny that you earn, every cent that you earn, it is money that is taken by the government as a percentage for the use of the nation that you live in. It will be taken. It can be quite stressful and hard, but it is something that is there. And I think that a lot of people show short of their budget because of this,
Mm.
particularly if you work the varied hours that are not very not every consistent, not every week you work different hours. It makes budgeting quite difficult,
Yeah.
but you will get the hang of it. But also for those that are starting out, know that there is going to be this money that's going to be taken from your account, from your payslip. So don't make the mistake I made when I got my first job when I was 16, and I calculated my X hours of worked times my this amount of pennies, and I'm gonna have this amount, and I was so excited, only to see that wasn't the case.
Oh no. Oh no. Tax, the dreaded word. And, should we be holding our governments accountable for what they do with our taxes?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Oh Lord. Okay, my next word is APR. So I would say it's well, not the opposite. The another word that usually comes up. You see it usually on like loan statements, credit card statements. You see AER, annual equivalent rate, when you're getting usually your saving statement. APR you would usually see on loan statements, so like credit cards or a mortgage loan or something like that. And APR means annual percentage rate. And again, it's you'd get your normal interest rate that you would pay on a loan. So remember, this is money where you are paying the interest. AER is money is used when you're receiving interest, but this is when you're paying interest out. And the annual percentage rate is basically used to sum up a situation where you are paying interest plus other fees. So rather than saying you're going to pay interest of, say, 5%, there might be a fee on, say, the credit card or the loan of another 5%. So in effect, what you're paying would then be 10% combined. So rather than saying you're going to pay 5% and then you're going to pay another 5%, you usually just get it combined together. And the word annual percentage rate is usually applied when you're paying things that have two or more combined types of interest that you are going to pay. So for example, if you borrowed £100, let's stick with 100 again, and say you had your 3% interest that you had to pay on that loan, and then there was a fee. As Rumbi said earlier, the banks are here to make money, so they charge you that interest, and then they charge you, say, another fee of, say, 3%. Your APR would then be 6%, meaning on £100 you're paying back £6. But the £6 is not just the interest alone, it's the interest plus the fee combined together in a word called your annual percentage rate. So that is what APR means. Now, there's another little bonus word that I'm going to put here before I go. By the way, if you've got any other words that you want us to explain, please put it in the chat box. My next word will be the word profit. I love it as much as I love the word asset. It would be
It's going there.
the word profit. So profit equals revenue minus cost. You can also say revenue is income minus your cost. You can say it's your income or your wages minus your expenses. So money in less money out equals profit. Now, I stress that because if you took profit and you move the formula around, you can work out how much revenue you need to be able to get a particular profit, how much your costs need to be if you need to target to get a particular profit. It's such a simple formula that you can move around to know what all of those variables could do at the end. Now, profit is a key word I want to mention because cost is an area or a part of, usually when we're trying to calculate sort of business costs, that we sometimes don't account for properly. So remember, we talked about fixed cost and variable cost. So in order to generate your true profit amount, either in your business or whatever you're doing, you really need to make sure that the sum of all of your revenue is included in the revenue figure. The sum of all of your costs are included, fixed, variable, all of the costs incurred, especially when you own in a home or working the profit on selling a house. You really need to make sure all of your costs minus all of your revenue equals profit. And profit is the gain or what you take back, usually for yourself or your business, after you have accounted for your cost, all of your costs. There you go.
It's important to account for those costs. My goodness, we fall short in thinking we've got this massive profit that we've made from a major deal, sale, kind of thing, only to have not taken into account some of the things that you've spoken about. And actually, in the end, it ends up being a bad deal, which is really sad. Or not
Absolutely.
necessarily a bad deal, or could be a way less than you thought that you were going to get. So definitely worth really looking at taking all those variables into account before
Absolutely. One
going down
thing
that
that I
road.
find people usually forget, especially when we're working at profit on a small business, is
Mm.
your time. So when you work out this fixed cost and the variable cost, a lot of people, so let's say I make cakes, which I do. I would sometimes just take the cost of the ingredients. I bought some flour, bought eggs, bought this, and this is my cost. No, it's not. We need to learn to be able to quantify and cost our time. So I'm learning now, but one easy way, another bonus, is to try and keep a timesheet when you're doing a piece of work. So how long did it take me to start from when I bought out the pots and pans until the cake was ready and when I finished decorating the cake? That amount of time, even if I'm starting out, I'm really shy about charging what I'm worth. Even if I were to pick a rate, which is say the minimum wage in my country, and multiplied by that by the number of hours, I always need to, and I'm learning this as I'm saying it, really know how to value my time when I'm costing out things, so that when I come up with a profit number, it is truly the additional cost or the profit on the cost of the ingredients of my cake plus my time to actually make that cake. So yeah, profit is just another word that's really used very loosely, but the cost element of that workings of income minus cost, that cost part is usually understated. So
You got you got me. So as serial entrepreneur, like it's and I think it's true of our black entrepreneurs particularly, is that I think we really don't cost our time
mhm,
well. We
mhm.
undersell our services, our products because of the time that we did not factor. It's so key and so important. And I just want to, all the entrepreneurs that are listening,
Mm.
whether you're starting out, whether you're in the middle, wherever, just make sure that you are really taking time to figure out the cost of your time, because time is the most precious commodity. You are giving up something else to do this thing. And I know people with services like Angie and I, sometimes with what we often do and overlook is the times where we're prepping for, let's say, a workshop, and it's something that you're doing quite leisurely, you're so used to doing it, it's like the back of your hand. But actually, that's time that you've spent preparing for that workshop you're going to deliver. And I think we don't really take into account all of those times. So if you were back to her baker example, if you are going to Lidl, yes, or wherever you're buying your ingredients, you haven't accounted for the drive it took you to get to the shop to buy the butter, the flour, all of that. Because you were just going there anyway, or you were passing by, but actually that's time that cost you to make that cake. So really do look at what is real profit and what are the costs really associated with what you're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And honestly, this applies to me as much as it applies to me out there.
Both of us.
Oh, Lord. Okay, great. I think that's it from me today. That's been really fun, quick fire, and we got through quite a few words. So thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much.
Until next time, have a good
You.
rest of your evening and see you later.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.